Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Lost in the 80s. This is a very special episode of Lost in the 80s. I'm Bretman.
And I'm Johnny B, and welcome to the podcast where we talk about all things 80s.
And nothing but the 80s.
That's right. And it's kind of a special episode.
It is. Today, we see, we're not in full costume necessarily.
Yeah.
We got the sunglasses going on. We've got, if you haven't figured it out, the Van Halen shirts on. Our tribute bandana to the great guitarist Edward Van Halen, who we lost October 6th of 2020 this year. And we thought it'd be appropriate for us to pay tribute to Eddie and just talk about our memories, and as well as just what we thought of Eddie, and
exactly.
have fun with it,
Yeah, exactly. I guess I will. I'll start and just say, when I heard of the passing of Eddie Van Halen, I think it affected a lot of people more deeply than I thought. Van Halen's one of those bands that, they only had one number one hit ever, which was Jump. But yet they were so much bigger than that. And, with the passing of Eddie, I think that they got a little bit of the recognition that they always should have had for one of the greatest bands of the 80s.
That's fair. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know what you think about my assessment of that, but...
Well, I'd say that I know since Eddie's passing that, like, a lot of the Van Halen albums kind of re-entered charts and, like, streaming records and stuff just kind of blew up for him, and why not?
Yeah, exactly.
It's sad because it's that old adage of you don't know what it's got till it's gone. What you've got till it's gone. But
exactly.
Here it is when you lose the guy who revolutionized guitar playing, coming around in the late '70s, and then basically any rock guy in the '80s. Boy, if they weren't influenced by Eddie Van Halen, it's pretty hard to tell because everybody was doing stuff Eddie was doing.
Exactly.
This kid from, originally the Netherlands comes along in California and just does these crazy guitar things. My gosh, you look at the things he did, it's like there'd be no Slash even though Slash doesn't do a lot of Eddie Van Halen style.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be, even the Steve Vais, the Joe Satriani's, those guys without the things Eddie did.
Exactly. And when you talk about the Eddie Van Halen style, again, a true genius when it comes to music. Self-taught, never took a guitar lesson in his life, and came up with his own style of playing the guitar. I think the only other person that I can think of that is like that is Jimmy Page. Because Jimmy Page definitely had his very unique own style of playing. Hendrix, he was also kind of that way, but Hendrix had lessons and he had more of a traditional style. But he was unique in so many ways that nobody can compare.
Yeah, like you said, Hendrix, Page, Eddie learned from slowing down old Cream records. So you're talking, he's learning from Eric Clapton. My goodness, one of the greatest guitarists ever, right there.
Yeah, exactly.
But he slowed him down. He slowed him down to the slowest speed and just kind of mimicked it note for note. And that's talent to be able to do that, because just doing it at regular speed, it's not easy.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of scattered when it comes to Eddie's passing.
Exactly.
As a teenager, I read every article I could find that was in a magazine of Eddie, watched anything on TV, MTV, VH1, Entertainment Tonight, whatever, if it had Eddie Van Halen or Van Halen on it, just in general, I was there. I was involved with it. Remember I don't know if you remember my wall in my bedroom.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Just plastered with Van Halen stuff all over it. It was...
Exactly.
When you get to learn and know so much about somebody, although you've never met them, and then his loss, but like when his passing hit me, it hit me hard, like you were saying. was at work, and my best friend that I grew up with, he texted me and told me that Eddie had passed away, and I was just kind of like, oh, BS, you know. I knew he had health problems and everything, but it's kind of that reality of like, really? But man, I had to step out of work for a little bit because I was losing it. I didn't think it would affect me like that, but it really did. Emotionally, I had to.
Well, it was one of those. I think that the only moment that kind of compared to me when I found out is when I found out that Michael Jackson had died. It had that same level of, wow, you know, somebody, we just lost somebody that is irreplaceable, somebody, one of the greats that we'll never see again. And that's kind of how it hit me. It also kind of hit me just the understanding that is the end of Van Halen.
Yeah, because there's not going to be any, even if they were to do anything, there's no Eddie.
Yeah.
You know, you could have any guitarist in the world come along and play, but it's still, and that, you know, and don't get me wrong, that's awesome that they pay tribute to him if they ever chose to do that. But
it's not Van Halen.
You lose Eddie. And,
but one thing that, even though it's sad that's probably, you know, there's not going to be any more Van Halen, but at least we got to see him live in concert, and you know, we'll always have that.
It's true. That's one of my greatest memories ever. I just, you know, it was bucket list for me was to see Van Halen front row center, and we got that opportunity back in 1995.
Yep.
You know, we've talked about it in other podcasts, of course, so we don't need to elaborate a whole lot on it. But the great thing about that, and if you're on our page, you follow us on Facebook, that memory of Eddie playing his solo in front of us and us just doing this.
Yeah.
And he just looked at
us. And
him
acknowledging.
He smiled that infectious smile that he just always had in the videos and stuff. Yeah. Looks at us, just kind of laughs, shakes his head, and still keeps going, man.
Exactly.
Just like, but it was cool. Yeah. You could see he really, like, he was a humble guy about his playing, you know?
Yeah.
He never really said, I'm the best guitarist there is. I never heard him say that or anything. But yet, he also had an appreciation, I think, for the fans because they had such a love for him, too, you know? And I think although he's kind of a humble, private guy, he embraced the love that the fans gave him. And, you know, that's...
Well, and we're amazing. A perfect example. I mean, when he played in front of us and we gave him the little, you know, we're not worthy, you know, that happened to him every night. But yet, he still made that connection with us.
And it made us feel like, hey, you know, this guy acknowledged us.
Exactly.
Just said, you know, in his own way, said, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And he didn't have to do that. And you know,
he could have just kept playing.
Like, oh yeah, there it is.
Here we go again.
The millionth time this has happened to me, but no, he was cool. I mean, and that's, you know, hey, that was awesome.
It was, and I that whole concert obviously is very special. It's a special memory for you and I both. And since Eddie's passing, I know that it really kind of made us both reflect back on that concert, being able to see him and you know, and I've talked to several people that have seen Van Halen over the years too, and you know, they have their own stories too, and it's just like, you know, I'm glad that it's brought, you know, although everyone's sad and upset that Eddie's gone, it's brought back the memories, and that's how we, you know, keep his spirit alive, so to speak, is reflecting on these memories and talking about the moments that made us love what he did, you know.
Exactly. And that I want to take a tiny detour.
No, we don't.
And I think that but I wanted to bring up a point that really made me think is, you know, because you talk about the difference between Van Roth and Van Hagar, and you know, through all of this, have you ever noticed that it's always Sammy that comes out and has the more personal approach with the fans? Like, I haven't heard anything from Roth. I haven't heard anything from
Roth. Just had the one statement of like, what a wild ride it's been.
Yeah.
You know, hey, that's cool.
I mean, it's his style. It's all right. Yeah.
But Sammy and Mike, I mean, you know, I showed you that interview of them when they were rehearsing for Sammy's birthday bash. They were like, that's the most I've ever seen those two in any interview be emotional.
Yeah,
and, you know, you know, and I can only imagine how it would be to be bandmates with Eddie and to have spent those years together. I mean, that is losing like a brother. You know, and I know Eddie and Mike, you know, they had and Sammy, they all had their differences over the last few years. But when Sammy came out and said that, you know, they had actually been talking since the beginning of the year, and that it's been a love fest. And it wasn't about them getting back together as a band. It was just them rekindling that friendship. And that made me feel a lot better about it.
Exactly.
Because as those of you that know us well know that, yes, Sammy's era is our favorite era of Van Halen.
Yes.
But, so that was nice to hear. And, you know, Dave's going to do what Dave does, and that's fine too. You know, that's fine. But the nice thing too I liked about it is Eddie's passing. It kind of brought everyone together, because there's the Dave side, there's the Sammy side, there's those of us that like both. You know, but everybody wasn't about Sammy versus Dave anymore. It was about Van Halen and what he did. I saw people that rip on Sammy. I've seen people that rip on Dave. That all came together and said, I may not have liked this singer, but the music was still really good. Eddie was a great, you know, guitar player. And it was nice to see that kind of respect.
Exactly.
You know, we need more of that in this world, really.
Exactly. And, you know, I've always, not that I don't appreciate some of the earlier albums, because I do. I think that Diver Down is my favorite of the early albums. You know, they just had a really raw spirit to that album. Whereas, you know, starting with 5150, OU812, and Balance, I mean, those were classic albums for me.
Forgot For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge in there.
Oh, yeah. For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge.
But those were... Yeah. That's the one thing I'll say, too. The Roth era albums pre... Sammy Hagar joining, even up to 1980, before 1984, everything was more raw.
Yes.
More, less studio sounding, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
My favorite early album would be Fair Warning, and I think a lot of the old Van Halen fans agree with me on that, because it is such a raw album as well, and it's dark for Van Halen. You know, you got the songs like Mean Street, which it's just Eddie's guitar tapping intro to that is so cool. And then it just goes into this raunchy hardcore riff. You know, it's like, wow, that's just heavy. But yeah, I mean, we could probably do several hours on just Eddie alone.
Sure we could.
But you know, the influence that he had on me personally, both as a musician and as just a person in general. Like I said, I'd read everything. I felt like I knew the guy even though I'd never met him. And that was like losing like an older brother or cousin that you just kind of worshipped.
Yeah.
And but you know, his music's gonna live on, and if it ever happens, I've heard rumblings that his son Wolfgang and Alex were gonna go through the vault, because Eddie's got like, I think he said like 7,000 CDs of just stuff he's recorded.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
So I would like to see some unreleased stuff come out, you know, eventually. I think that'd be cool. Not like Tupac, where it's releases a new one every year, even though he's dead.
Really? I wouldn't know anything about that. I don't really follow it.
I don't really either, but it seemed like that for a while. But
well, let's hope that it's not like a coda for Led Zeppelin. Coda came out after, and Coda is just not a Zeppelin album. I mean, Coda is rough, but if they do that, I hope that it's the best of the best that they can find of him, and that it's worthy of being, if it's under the name of Van Halen, that it's worth it.
I would love to hear remastered stuff like
definitely.
You know, Eddie did that soundtrack for that movie The Wildlife, and that little riff that's in Back to the Future when Marty McFly puts the headphones on his dad, and that's Eddie's riff. That's part of that Wildlife soundtrack. That's all in there. I would love to hear that whole album come out just as like remastered, because it's cool. It's not like Van Halen-esque. It is, but it isn't. It's not like the band stuff. It's just Eddie doing his thing, but it's, I mean, you can go on YouTube and look it up, and you'll hear some very raw Eddie Van Halen guitar work on that. But it's really good, and that'd be something, as well as, like I said, the things that are just buried in the vault, so to speak, that have yet to be released that hopefully they will release.
Yep.
Just give us a little more taste of what Eddie could do. And,
yeah, that would be awesome. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. But, you know, wherever Eddie is now, he's joined he's joined that super band.
Yep,
you know.
exactly.
He's up there with Hendrix.
He's up there with Chickenfoot. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Not really, but that's okay. But just imagine the dream team. Let's just say we have Hendrix, Eddie Van Halen, Neil Peart on drums.
Yeah.
Gosh, pick a singer. There's so many great ones.
Yeah, there's so many up there. I mean,
that it could,
Jim Morrison.
There you go. That'd be an interesting.
That would be an interesting one. Morrison or.
There's a lot, but yeah, it's just. Yeah, it's sad, but we have great fond memories of Eddie, in his music and personally as well now. And I don't know.
Well, why don't we end it with what's your favorite? What is your all-time favorite Van Halen album and your all-time Van Halen song?
Okay, I'll probably sound like a broken record on this one because multiple times we've talked about our favorite albums. For me, my favorite Van Halen album was 5150 because that was the new album with the Sammy Hagar era when it begun. And to me, it was just an introduction to a great new chapter in the Van Halen musical saga. Mm-hmm. And it hit home with me when I first heard it, and I've just loved it ever since. Favorite Van Halen song, that's like asking me to name my favorite child.
Okay.
But if I were to pick a couple off the top of my head, one, it's not Eddie's hardest, craziest guitar song, but it's such a clean sounding song that I've always loved the sound of it. And I can't stop loving you off the Balance album.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just such a simple. It's got that rhythm of kind of like Every Breath You Take. It's just that slow up tempo ballad.
Yeah.
But I don't know, the way the riff Eddie plays on that, and like I said, his tone is so clean and just crisp. Instead of that brown sound that he's known for, it was a much more cleaner tone, but it just worked for me, and it's always been one of my favorite songs. Uh-huh. And if I were, I could go on and on about a lot of the songs, but if I were to pick one more off Van Halen, of my favorite Van Halen ones, I'm going to go back to a Roth era one, and I'm going to go with Panama. That song to me was the first Van Halen song, because we're the MTV generation. I didn't know who Van Halen was until MTV came along.
Yeah.
And at first I hated the video for Jump. I thought David Lee Roth jumping around, kicking, doing stupid stuff. Eddie just looking at the camera, smiling. I'm like, who the heck are these guys?
Yeah.
But then they released the video for Panama, and that, and I was just like, now that's cool. I like that. I like the sound of that a lot. And that was my, like I said, although Jump was technically the first one I'd heard, I guess, but Panama just spoke to me. That was just that, like I said, a raw, hardcore one that hit me.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Well, for me, love 5150, but my favorite album is OU 812. And the reason why is because I think they really... 5150 is an incredible album, but I think they polished it just perfectly in OU 812.
They found their sound.
Yes, right. I mean, that is almost a perfect album, if not, it's a 9.9 on a 10. And my favorites.
If you really want to, reference OU 812 and say 9, how about a 9 on a 10 scale? Sucker in a 3-piece.
Yeah.
But okay.
Which I love. I love.
That's
Sucker
one of my favorite songs too.
But my favorite song is actually on OU 812, Mine Oh Mine.
Beautiful song.
It's one they never released, but just an incredible song. Not just the incredible energy that's in it, but the stuff that he says in it. I mean, that song resonates with me to this day.
Yep.
Incredible song.
Absolutely. And if you were to pick a favorite song from the Roth era, I kind of did that.
Oh, from the Roth era, I would say it's probably... this might sound kind of weird, but I really love the Girl, You Got Me Going.
You Really Got Me?
Girl, You Really Got Me, even though that's a a cover, I actually always really liked that song.
Everyone liked that song. That's one of those few covers that's probably better than the original.
Or
Nothing
Everybody
against the
Wants
Kinks
Some.
version.
That's another one too.
That's a great one.
Everybody Wants Some. I mean, they have a lot of good songs from the Roth area.
There's definitely no lack of music.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're not going to touch on any of the songs from the Gary Cherone Van Halen 3 album.
No.
Although musically there were a couple of really good songs on there.
Mm-hmm.
We just call that the Van Halen Mulligan.
Yeah,
It was all right, but let's just be honest. Gary didn't fit. And nothing against Gary, he's a great singer.
Yeah.
But he just did not fit the Van Halen sound.
Yeah.
And that's the way it goes. So that's why you never hear him getting thrown in the argument about Sammy versus Dave. Well, what about Gary? No one does that.
No.
Sorry, Gary. Love you, bro.
It's all good.
But, I think, Eddie, wherever Eddie or wherever you are, dude, thank you for all the amazing music, the amazing memories. I think it's fitting if we had this podcast, like we said we were going to do 20 minutes ago, that we give that infamous salute, 5150 salute. 5150. And then we get one too. They said this one's for you, Pa. This one's for you, Eddie.
That's right. We'll see you later.